So yes, first things first, all these are going to get washed in the sink. I don't scrub them too much. I know they haven't had any pesticides on them, so it's just more to get rid of any, I don't know, any bugs, any juices they may have left behind, and just to give them a general clean. They've been in a box, you never know what could have happened in the week or so they've been in there. And don't worry if you've got any apples like this, you know, they've got any bad bits on them. You can just cut these off, and as long as it's not brown on the inside, just chuck them into the bowl or bucket, whatever we're going to store them in before we press them. And yeah, I've not had any problems. It's not affected my cider at all. And in other videos people have done this as well, so you're perfectly fine. Right, so things you're going to need. So myself, because this is a small batch, I'm going to use a blender. It's a little bit time consuming cutting all these up. I'm putting it in a blender, and there are videos where people use a basher, which is just like a giant piece of wood, and yeah, you just put them all in like a gallon bucket and crush them down so they go to a nice pulp. I don't really have one of those handy, and I found this works just as well, and it takes a little bit more time, but it's definitely worth it. You've got to turn them into a pulp somehow, and I find this works brilliantly. So yes, I shall get on with that and then make another video. So yeah, first things first, we're going to need to sterilize all our equipment. So I do have a gallon bucket, which is ideal if you're going to press lots of apples, but I'm going to be doing a couple of separate videos. So in this one there's going to be a wine, and the other one is going to be a cider. So I've got some sterilizing fluid I bought from my, if that'll focus, possibly not, from my local homebrew shop. I have used Milton fluid in the past and it's worked absolutely fine, no problems, but I wanted to make sure I had some good stuff, plus I never knew how much to use of the Milton fluid, but yeah, both sterilizing fluids I think do pretty much the same job, but and they're about the same price, so this was handy, so I got that. So for the wine as well, from the homebrew shop, I've just got the all-purpose white wine, because that's what my one's going to be. And cider, I've only got enough yeast left for a gallon, so yeah, 1 gallon of cider, and I'm going to have 1 gallon of white wine. Brilliant. So equipment, you're going to want to sterilize a hydrometer. This is probably not necessary. It's very handy. It tells you the, well, was it, I'm no professional, I think it's the SG, specific gravity of the beer, sorry, the cider, beer or wine, and it basically helps you calculate how much sugar's in there and how much alcohol you're going to have by the end of it. For cider, this definitely isn't 100% necessary, because most ciders naturally are going to come out at about 4.5. If you add more sugar to them, then you're probably going to get a bit more. And to find how much to add, you can give it a Google. I'm happy with my cider at 4.5, so it stays at that. One thing I want to say about the apples as well. I had one of my the student who donated the bitter apples. He said, you know, you can't just use any apples; they have to have a specific tannin in them. This isn't totally true. The homebrew shop I went to told me that you can use any apples. It's just that certain apples have that cider taste that people expect. So these might taste a little bit different from what you get in the pubs, but again, it's organic. I like it. I've had no quarrels about the taste. I've had no complaints so far with people I've given this to as gifts, and yeah, so tannin not totally necessary, or you don't have to add anything to these. They're absolutely fine as they are. So there we go. You just submerge all of the equipment into these buckets, and you leave them for 10 minutes with this cleaning fluid, it says. So that was my siphoning hose, which I'll need later. My hydrometer, I think it's just like a test tube jug, so I can stick the hydrometer in there to see how much sugar and alcohol's in there. And this is part of the siphoning tube. Helps sediment not get through the bottom. You can get all these from like homebrew shops or even Wilkinson's, I think there's a few. Brilliant, so I'll leave that in there. I'll wash these apples and we'll get to the next part. So here we are. Some of these apples have been chopped up, and the good bits have been put into here. I say that with a nice brown bit on top, I'll hide that. All these lovely other bits in there, that'll be absolutely fine. We'll blend those together. So all the bad bits which you don't really want going into your cider go into this. I just put it into this pan here, and then the sterilised bucket is where I'm going to put the pulp out of this. So after I've got all the apples, or I think about a third of a bucket full, I then take it to my press which I've bought, which will just squeeze the maximum amount of juice out of all these apples that we can get. And yeah, it's a brilliant tool. So I'll do a bit more work and then come back to you after I've got enough pulp to put in the press. So hey guys, we're back. This is all the apple that I used, or all the bad bits, and here's our bucket. So it's at least 2/3 full now, and here's another little assistant helping me out. I'll say helping, I think she's eating cat, I think. Oh, it could be a fly, I don't know. Evil. Anyway, so yeah, this is all our pulp. So you can see that's nice and squishy and all small little bits, no big chunks in there. So that's going to go into the press nice, very nicely. So this goes brown quite quickly, but don't worry about that at all. It's perfectly fine as long as you're not leaving it for a day or so. I mean, this is literally going to be like this for the next 10 minutes. I'm going to feed the cats and then get some lunch, and then it'll be down to the press. So stay tuned. So welcome back, ladies and gentlemen. So here we have my 12 litre press. So as you can see, I've put all the apple pulp into the press here. We've got a nice bag which helps contain the actual fruit, so we only get juice coming through in the end. Some little bits do escape, and I have put plum in this, and plum seems to squeeze through much easier than apple, but it's pretty self-explanatory. These parts go on first, then you've got these two wooden planks here that go on top, then you've got another block which goes over this little pole in the middle, and then you literally twist this with the handle until you get lots and lots of nice juice out. So I should have said at the beginning, you can actually just buy juice already to get your to make cider with. Trouble is, if you get it from supermarkets, then it can have things added to it which can affect the flavour, and I think sometimes some of the preservatives can even kill off some of the yeast. But here I like it organic. There's an abundance of apples. It was just a waste to let them go into the ground. I believe my neighbour said he usually just mows them up when he does his lawn, so it's very good for the garden. The pulp left over, I do have a little veg patch in the back garden. I usually put it into there, and all the nutrients go back into the soil, and then you can just grow things next year with all the goodness still in them. Brilliant. So I'll put this together. I did have, sometimes to get the most juice, I found that if you've got a few more blocks, it can be handy. These two should be fine. It's not filled to the top, so I'm probably going to chuck another 2 on there, and then later on you can leave this overnight and you can get another 1.5 litres sometimes, just leaving it as it is, and then squeeze out another 500 millilitres the next day. So yeah, because I'm short on apples, I'm probably going to do something similar to this. So I'll get this on the go and I shall come back in a moment. Brilliant. I'm going to press this a bit more, but I just thought I'd record this. We've got some beautiful, it's hopefully this camera can pick it up, it's like a golden colour. It's just, it's so much more fuller than juice you'd get from the supermarket, and it smells delicious, and I usually drink a fair bit of this juice before it makes it into the fermenting bucket. I think I actually drank 2 litres the first time, and then made about a gallon's worth, 4.5 litres of cider in the end. It's really nice, feels great, gives you energy. Right, I'm going to stir this a bit more and then come back, see how much juice we get. I'm probably going to need a second jug as well before it goes into the fermenting bucket. Great. Brilliant. So I've given this a good squeeze, a good press, and I think it's gone into the fermenting bucket here. I think we're going to get at least 2 litres out of the first squeeze. I've used a sieve here as well, just to catch any bits of the juice or pulp that have escaped into the juice. Important thing to remember about this stage, the first time I did it, the pulp that's in here now, I actually emptied out before I put the next batch of apples in, which I'm about to blend up and do the same thing again. If you leave this pulp in and then just top it up, you can get so much more juice out of there. It just saves you a heck of a lot of time, and it doesn't waste as much apple. You get quite a lot from it. So I'm going to blend up the next batch, and I'm going to add them to the pulp in here, let this drain off, and then hopefully we're looking in the end to get, if I could get just over a gallon, because I need a little bit of juice for my wine recipe, I'll be happy. That should be plenty. So, right, back in a minute. Hi guys, so here we are, back again. So I've just put some more in, more juice, and I had to find some more pieces of wood just because there wasn't a great deal of apples left. I got like just over half of a bucket full. Sorry for my grubby hands. So I found some more pieces of wood which were, they're stable, they're safe, so yeah, I know what I'm doing now anyway. So yeah, we've almost got another litre, so that brings us to about 3 litres in total now. And I definitely think overnight I can get at least another litre. So if we only get 4 litres out of this, that'll be fine, I'm sure. So I've got to go and do some work now, but I'll keep coming back, and if you come back say every 5-10 minutes, you'll be able to squeeze a bit more out of this part here. So if you twist it down, so you spin it round and press down even more, you're going to keep getting more, and just leave this for about another, I don't know, 12-16 hours, and yeah, you'll definitely get another litre out of that. So brilliant. I'll come back soon.